At Seprod, greatness doesn't ask for attention. It earns trust, quietly, consistently. For over 85 years, we've been the quiet power behind the Caribbean's progress, building value, building lives. We feed nations with food crafted to the highest standards. We support wellness with products and partnerships that people rely on, and keep life moving, powered by one of the region's most advanced distribution networks. From factory floors to supermarket shelves, rural communities to hospital wards, hotel kitchens and family tables, we're there, quietly connecting what matters most. But Seprod is more than what we make. It's how we move. It's who we empower. A platform where people grow, where partnerships thrive, where progress feels personal and excellence is expected. We are proudly Caribbean, rooted in community, driven by possibility. We define what good looks like, redefining our standards in every product, every delivery, every experience. And then we raise it again and again, because if it's Seprod, it must be good. Seprod, greatness doesn't ask for attention. It earns trust, quietly, consistently. For over 85 years, we've been the quiet power behind the Caribbean's progress, building value, building lives. We feed nations with food crafted to the highest standards. We support wellness with products and partnerships that people rely on, and keep life moving, powered by one of the region's most advanced distribution networks. From factory floors to supermarket shelves, rural communities to hospital wards, hotel kitchens and family tables, we're there, quietly connecting what matters most. But Seprod is more than what we make. It's how we move. It's who we empower. A platform where people grow, where partnerships thrive, where progress feels personal and excellence is expected. We are proudly Caribbean, rooted in community, driven by possibility. We define what good looks like, redefining our standards in every product, every delivery, every experience. And then we raise it again and again, because if it's Seprod, it must be good.
Welcome everybody, to all those that are here in person and to those online. Welcome to the, I believe, 85th Annual General Meeting of Seprod. And with that, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Before we start, I would like to just say, on Saturday night, a very well-respected leader of the private sector, Don Webby, passed. He was a good friend of mine, and he led a transformation of a great company, Grace Kennedy, who is a partner of Seprod, a company that we've worked very, very closely with over the years. And he led that company exceptionally. He was a man of integrity, a committed Jamaican, a person that served not only as a leader in the private sector, but also as a government minister. And in many ways, the development and growth of the stock exchange, which has been fed by the growth of the junior market, came from him. In addition to that, every Friday you could find him committed to being a senator, working for Jamaica. It's a great loss for Jamaica, and it's a great loss for the private sector, and it's a great loss for his family. So I would like us to take a minute of silence to reflect on Don's life, and we wish him to rest in peace and the very best to his family. So let's bow our heads in silence. May he rest in peace. I'm going to ask the secretary to come up to read the notice of the meeting, to deliver any apologies for absence, and the receipt of proxies. Mr. Damien Dodd.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 86th Annual General Meeting of Seprod Limited. Notice is hereby given that the 86th Annual General Meeting of Seprod Limited will be held at the Turnover All Suite Hotel, 17 Waterloo Road, Kingston 10, on July 28, 2025 at 10 a.m. The meeting will be held in a hybrid format, that's physical and virtual, for transacting the following businesses. Number one, to receive the audited accounts and the reports of the directors and auditors. To consider and, if thought fit, pass the following resolution. That the director's report, the auditor's report, and the audited accounts for the year ended two, to elect directors. The directors retiring from office by rotation pursuant to Articles 89 and 91 of the Company's Articles of Association are Christopher Gentles, Nicholas Jones, Patrick Scott, Mark Swomey, and Mr. A. Mark Hart. To consider and, if thought fit, pass the following resolutions. Resolution 2A, that the directors retiring from office by rotation and offering themselves for re-election be elected en bloc. Resolution 2B, that Christopher Gentles, Nicholas Jones, Patrick Scott, Mark Swomey, and Mr. A. Mark Hart be re-elected as directors. 3, to fix the remuneration of directors. To consider and, if thought fit, pass the following resolution. That the amount shown in the audited accounts as director's remuneration for the year ended 31st December 2024 be and is hereby approved. Number 4, to appoint auditors and to authorize the director to fix the remuneration of the auditors. To consider and, if thought fit, pass the following resolutions. Resolution 4A, that PricewaterhouseCoopers, having indicated their willingness to continue in office as auditors, be reappointed auditors for the ensuing year. And Resolution 4B, that the directors be authorized to agree on the remuneration of the auditors. 5, to transact any other business which may be properly transacted at an annual general meeting. The notice is dated 26th of March 2025 and is signed by yours truly. Apologies for absence. For record, Mr. Chairman, there are no apologies for absence. List of proxies received. I have a proxy from Mutton Jamaica Limited in favor of Paul Scott and Melanie Sobrati, from Facey Group Limited in favor of Paul Scott or Melanie Sobrati, in favor of the Coconut Industry Board by Christopher Gentles or Nicholas Jones, the Sagicor Pooled Investment Funds and trading as Sagicor Pooled Equity, Sagicor Life Jamaica Limited as investment manager for First Jamaica / NHT Pension Fund, Sagicor Life Jamaica as investment manager for Digital Jamaica Limited Pension Fund, Sagicor Life Jamaica Limited as investment manager for Hard Trust / NTA Pension Scheme, Sagicor Life Jamaica Limited as investment manager for Jamaica Church Pension Fund, Sagicor Life Jamaica Limited as managing agent for JCSD Trustee Services / Sigma Equity, Sagicor Life Jamaica Limited as investment manager for Roundtable Nominees Limited, Sagicor Life Jamaica Limited as investment manager for IBM Pension Fund, Sagicor Life Jamaica Limited as investment manager for Lasses de Mercado Defined Contribution Fund, and Sagicor Life Jamaica Limited as investment manager for First Jamaica / UHWI Pension Scheme, and all in favor of Robert Mackenzie or Kesley Taylor. There are 3 BPM Financial Limited accounts. There's BP 951, BP 905, and BP and PEQ01 in favor of Justin Campbell or Kevin Dawes. Okay, that's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now move that the director's report be taken as read. Can I have a second, please? Sir? Thank you, Mr. Thomas. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And I will now ask the CEO, Richard Panduri, to give an update on the company.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, esteemed shareholders, directors, my colleagues, many of whom are sitting there, and members of the media. Welcome to Seprod's 85th Annual General Meeting, a true milestone in our journey. And unlike the current West Indies batsmen, we are confidently marching towards our century. By the way, I want to acknowledge that Howard Staple, a very vocal member of our shareholding group, is not here this morning. He's not well, and we wish him well in all that he do, all right? So today is a moment for us to reset, re-energize, and reaffirm our mission. What is that? To build a world-class regional powerhouse rooted in hard work, bold ambition, and an unrelenting drive to succeed. Let me begin with a snapshot of our performance for the year. Revenue rose by 19% from $112.5 billion to $133.6 billion, our highest top-line growth. Our operating profit increased modestly by 3% to $8.99 billion. Profit before ending at $3.32 billion, primarily due to higher finance costs, which is a deliberate choice to fund strategic investment and acquisitions that are already yielding benefits. In total, we invested over $7.7 billion across 2023 and 2024 into production capacity, logistics infrastructure, and strengthening our regional supply chain. These are not just costs, they are cornerstone of a stronger, future-ready Seprod. Since our last AGM, Caribbean Producers Jamaica officially joined the Seprod family. We increased our ownership stake in A.S. Bryden's holding. These are not merely business transactions, they are transformational. Clear signals that Seprod is future-proofing its position as a Caribbean's leader in manufacturing, fast-moving consumer goods and distribution. Let's talk about the real engine of growth behind our performance, our people. We now employ over 4,500 people across the region, up from 1,500 a decade ago. Our gender mix stands at 56% men, 44% women, trending steadily towards parity. By generation, as you can see on the thing, we have 48% millennials, 27% Gen Z, 22% Gen X, 3% baby boomers, okay. With an average age of 36 and 75% of our team under 40, Seprod has built a workforce that is energetic, future-focused, and built for sustainable growth. This didn't happen by chance. We have intentionally cultivated a team that blends experience with agility and digital fluency. And we continue to invest in them through plant certification, STEM education and technical training, leadership development and succession planning at all levels. Our pipeline is not just operational, it is generational. Despite the pressure on net earnings, our fundamentals remain solid, and we continue to reward our shareholders. In 2024, we declared dividends totaling $1.82 Jamaican cents per share, with an overall payout of $1.3 billion. That's a dividend payout ratio of 51%, among the highest on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. I mean, feel free to give me applause, shareholders. All right? This reflects our continued commitment to delivering value, even as we aggressively scale the business. The road to 100 is not going to be linear. Our chairman keeps saying growth is not linear. Our strategy remains clear. We will continue to deeply embed technology across our operations. Artificial intelligence and ERPs are no longer optional. We're going to drive innovation in our products and our packaging and processes. We're going to accelerate brand investment across all consumer touchpoints. Expand exports. In fact, Seprod has been Jamaica's top exporters in the last 5 of the last 7 years. We're going to build, thank you, we're going to build world-class We're going to build world-class infrastructure, ensuring our factories, farms, or distribution centers meet global standards. And we're going to unlock value from acquisitions and our expanded footprint. And of course, we're going to continue to uplift communities through the work of the Seprod Foundation. Our goal is bold but simple. We want to help create the kind of Jamaican Caribbean we all want to see. Prosperous, tech forward, and globally competitive. That transformation requires visionary companies. At Seprod, we are proud to be among them. We're a regional manufacturing and distribution conglomerate, powered by motivated people, modern systems, and a relentless commitment to delivering world-class products and services across the region. Visionary companies don't emerge by luck. They are built by visionary leaders. Through our chairman, we benefit from not only a bold strategist, but someone whose energy seems inexhaustible. Thank you, PB. To the board of directors, your wise counsel continues to guide us. And to our incredible teams across the region, whether in factories, on the farms, in the offices, or on the road, your dedication is the heartbeat of this company. Thank you. And I'll close with the same promise we give to our consumers every day. Made by Seprod? Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Richard. Mr. Paul Williams of PricewaterhouseCoopers will read the auditor's report. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning. Independence Auditor's Report to the members of Seprod Limited. Report on the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement. Our opinion. In our opinion, the consolidated financial statement and the standalone financial statement give a true and fair view of the consolidated position of Seprod Limited, the company, and its subsidiaries, together the group, and the standalone financial position of the company as of 31st December 2024, and of their consolidated and standalone financial performance, and their consolidated and standalone cash flow for the year then ended in accordance with IFRS accounting standards and with the requirement of the Jamaican Companies Act. We have audited the group consolidated and standalone financial statement comprise the consolidated statement of financial position as of 31st December 2024, the consolidated statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the consolidated statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the consolidated statement of cash flow for the year then ended, the company statement of financial position as of 31st December 2024, the company statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the company statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the company statement of cash flow for the year then ended, and the notes to the financial statement comprising material accounting policies information and other explanatory information. Basis for opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with International Standard and Auditing ISAs. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibility for the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement section of our report. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide the basis for our opinion. Independence. We're independent of the group in accordance with International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, including International Standard, Independent Standard, issued by the International Ethics Standard Board for Accountant, the IESBA code. We fulfill all other ethical responsibility in accordance with the said code. Our audit approach. Audit scope. As part of designing our audit, we determine materiality and assess the risk of material misstatement in a consolidated and standalone financial statement. In particular, we consider where management made subjective judgments, for example, in respect of significant accounting estimates that involve making assumptions and considering future events that are inherently uncertain. As in all of our audit, we also address the risks of management override of internal controls, including, among other material consideration, of whether there was evidence of bias that represented a risk of material misstatement due to fraud. How we have tailored our group audit scope. We tailor our scope of the audit in order to perform sufficient work to enable us to provide an opinion on the consolidated and standalone consolidated financial statement as a whole, taking into account the structure of the group, the accounting processes and control, and the industry in which the group operates. In assessing the risk of material misstatement of the group consolidated financial statement, and to ensure we have adequate coverage of significant account in the consolidated financial statement, we design and perform audit procedures over various components. The group comprised 36 reporting components, of which we selected 27 components, which represent the principal business unit within the group and covers entities within Jamaica, St. Lucia, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, the Dominican Republic, Guyana, and St. Vincent. Of the 27 components selected, we perform an audit of the completed financial statement of 22 components, which selected based on their size, their risk characteristic, or both. For the remaining 5 components, we perform audit procedures on specific accounts and specific audit procedures within the component that we consider had potential the greatest impact of significant account in the consolidated financial statement, either due to size of these accounts or their risk profile. In relation to the remaining component, none of which are individually greater than 2% of the group profit before taxation, we perform other procedures including analytical review procedures and testing of consolidated journals, intercompany eliminations, foreign currency translation, recalculation to respond to any potential risk of material misstatement to the group consolidated financial statement. For components that are in scope of the group audit, we use component auditors from PwC Network firm and non-PwC firm who are familiar with the local laws and regulation to perform this audit work. Key audit matters. Key audit matters are those matters that, in our professional judgment, were most significant in our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement of the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement as a whole and informed our opinion thereon, and we do not provide a separate opinion on these matters. The first key audit matter relates to the valuation of unquoted securities. That's both for the group and the company. Refer to notes 2H, 4, and 17 to the consolidated and standalone financial statement for the disclosure of the related accounting policies and balances. Unquoted equities denominated in US dollars included in investment in the consolidated and standalone financial position totaled $2.4 billion as of 31st December 2024 for both the group and the company, which represents 1.8% and 5.1% of the total assets, respectively. These unquoted equity relate to an investment in an affiliated company over which Seprod Limited does not exercise significant influence. These securities are not quoted in an active market. The fair value of these securities is determined by management using a valuation-based model based on discounted future cash flows. We focus on this area because of the magnitude of the balance, the complexity of the valuation model used, and the use of management determined assumptions. The key assumptions were assessed by management as being the investee future cash flow, the terminal growth rate, the discount rate, and the market participant minority discount. Management used an independent valuation expert to assess the valuation process. How we address this key audit matter. Our approach in addressing this matter with the assistance of our own valuation expert involves the following procedures, among others. We update our understanding and evaluate management future cash flow forecasts and the process by which they use determine, including testing the underlying calculations and comparing them to the latest board-approved budget of the investee. We also compare prior management budget to actual results of the investee to evaluate the reliability of management forecast process. We also tested management key assumption as follows. We compare forecast long-term growth rate to historical results and economic and industrial forecasts. We also evaluated management assumptions concerning selected growth rates, the terminal growth rate, the discount rate, and the market participant minority discount by reference to relevant industry and other externally derived data where available, including market expectation of the investment return, projected economic growth, and the interest rate. We also perform sensitization to management plan growth rate in the cash flow and also changes to the discount rate. The second key audit matter relates to goodwill impairment for the group. Refer to notes 2F, 4, and 16 of the consolidated financial statement for disclosure of the related accounting policies and balances. As of 31st December 2024, the group carried a significant amount of goodwill amounting to $8.8 billion. In line with IAS 36, impairment of assets, management perform an annual impairment assessment of goodwill. An asset is impaired when its carrying value exceeds its recoverable amount. The recoverable amount of each cash generating unit, the CGU, is calculated as the higher of the value in use and the fair value less cost to sell. Management determines the recoverability amount by reference to the value in use, which was derived using discounted expected cash flow approach, where management makes significant judgment on certain key inputs and assumptions, including discount rate and growth rate. We focus on this area because of the significant level of judgment required in arriving at the key assumptions used in the management's impairment assessment. Our approach to addressing this key audit matter with the assistance of our internal expert involves the following procedures, among others. We obtain an understanding of the method used by management to perform its goodwill impairment assessment and assess whether they were in compliance with IAS 36. We also recalculated the weighted average cost of capital, the WACC, used to discount the expected cash flow and evaluate those rates against observable market-based input and our knowledge of the economic environment. We also assess the assumptions, including the growth rate by reference to historical performance of the CGU and the relevant external economic data. We also tested the mathematical accuracy of management impairment calculation, and we also compare management future cash flow forecasts using the impairment calculation to those approved by the board of directors and part of the annual budgeting process and strategic plan. The final key audit matter relates to accounting for business combination. Refer to note 2B and 36 to the consolidated financial statement for disclosure of related accounting policies and balances. There are two business combinations during the year as follows. In July 2024, A.S. Bryden & Son Holdings Limited, ASB, acquired Caribbean Products Jamaica Limited, CPJ, a listed entity domiciled in Jamaica. The acquisition was completed in stages, with the first stage being an acquisition of 45% of the share capital of CPJ, at which point A.S. Bryden Management determined A.S. Bryden had obtained control over the acquiree. A further stake was acquired in December 2024 which brought Ace Brand shareholding up to 75.3%. Purchase consideration comprised cash, promissory note, ordinary shares in ASB for the second stage. The transaction resulted in the recognition of $2.3 billion of goodwill and intangible asset comprising customer relationship, trade name, and brand asset in the amount of $2.2 billion. In March 2024, Ace Bryden acquired a controlling stake of 55% in Retail Acquisition Company Limited. Purchase consideration for this transaction amounting to $985 million, comprising cash, shares, and convertible promissory notes. This acquisition resulted in the recognition of intangible assets comprising a trade name and distribution agreement of $1.05 billion and goodwill of $592 million. We focus on the group business combination due to the significance of intangibles assets identified and acquire, and the complex accounting requirement, some of which require the exercise of management judgment. Management engaged external experts to assist with the determination of the purchase price allocation for both acquisitions, which encompass identifying and estimating the fair value of intangible assets acquired. This involved the use of assumption for a number of inputs, including the revenue growth rate, attrition rate, future margins, and discount rate. Our approach in addressing this key audit matter with the assistance of our internal expert involves the following procedures, among others. We read the relevant agreement, including share purchase agreement and an amalgamation agreement, and evaluated the appropriateness of the accounting for the acquisition as a business combination against management accounting policies and the applicable accounting standard. We also evaluated the reasonableness of management determination that control was obtained following acquisition of 45% of the share capital of CPJ. We held discussions with management and their expert to understand and evaluate their basis for determining assumptions. We also assessed the objectivity, competence, and the capability of management valuation expert. We also evaluated the application valuation methodologies used to derive the fair values of the intangible assets. And we tested the reasonableness of valuation assumptions and input, including we evaluated the key variables being the revenue growth rate, the attrition rate, future margins and discount against historical and prospective financial industry and economic information, taking into consideration our knowledge of the group and its industry. Where relevant, we also consider third-party sources and challenge management future revenue estimate, taking into account changes in the market or action by competitors. We also tested the mathematical accuracy of the calculation by recalculating the difference between the total net consideration paid and the fair value of the net assets acquired. Other information. Management is responsible for other information. The other information comprises the annual report, but does not include the consolidated and standalone financial statement and our audit report thereon, which is expected to be made available to us after the date of this audit report. Our opinion on the consolidated and standalone financial statement does not cover other information and we will not express any form of assurance conclusion thereon. In connection with our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement, our responsibility is to read the other information, identify above when it becomes available. In doing so, consider whether the other information is materially inconsistent with the consolidated and standalone financial statement or knowledge obtained in the audit or otherwise appear to be materially misstated. When we read the annual report, if we concluded that there is a material misstatement therein, we are required to communicate the matter to those charged with governance. Responsibilities of management and those charged with governance for the consolidated and standalone financial statement. Management is responsible for the preparation of the consolidated and standalone financial statement that give a true and fair view in accordance with IFRS accounting standard and with the requirement of the Jamaican Companies Act, and for such internal control as management determined is necessary to enable the preparation of the consolidated and standalone financial statement that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the consolidated and standalone financial statement, management is responsible for assessing the group and the company's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing as applicable matters relating to going concern, and using the going concern basis of accounting unless management either intend to liquidate the group or the company or to cease operation or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the group and the company financial reporting process. Auditor's responsibility for the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated and standalone financial statement as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an audit report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with ISAs will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatement can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decision of users taken on the basis of these consolidated and standalone financial statements. As part of an audit in accordance with ISAs, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risks of material misstatement of the consolidated and standalone financial statement, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than one resulting from error, as fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentation, or override of internal controls. We obtain an understanding of the internal controls relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the group and the company's internal control. We evaluated the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and the related disclosures made by management. Conclude on the appropriateness of management use of going concern basis for accounting, and based on the audit evidence obtained, whether a material uncertainty exists related to event or conditions that may cast significant doubt on the group or company's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our audit report to the related disclosure in the consolidated and standalone financial statement, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our audit report. However, future events or conditions may cause a group or company to cease to continue as a going concern. We evaluated the overall presentation, structure, and the content of the consolidated and standalone financial statement, including the disclosure on whether the consolidated and standalone financial statement represent the underlying transaction and event in a manner that achieve fair presentation. We plan and perform the group audit to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding financial information of the entities or business within the group on a basis for forming an opinion on the consolidated financial statement. We are responsible for the direction, supervision, and the review of the audit work performed for purposes of the group audit. We remain solely responsible for our audit opinion. We communicate with those charged with governance regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal control that we identify during our audit. We also provide those charged with governance with a statement that we have complied with the relevant ethical requirement regarding independence and to communicate with them all relationship and other matters that may reasonably be thought to bear on our independence, and where applicable action taken to eliminate threats or safeguard apply. From the matters communicated to those charged with governance, we determined those matters that were most significant in the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement of the current period and are therefore the key audit matters. We describe those matters in our audit report unless law or regulation precludes public disclosure about the matters when, in extremely rare circumstances, we determine that a matter should not be communicated in our report because the adverse consequences of doing so would reasonably be expected to outweigh the public interest benefit of such communication. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. As required by the Jamaican Companies Act, we have obtained all the information and explanation which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the process of our audit. In our opinion, accounting records have been kept so far as appear from our examination of those records, and their company consolidated and standalone financial statement are in agreement therewith, and give the information required by the Jamaican Companies Act in a manner so required. The engaging partner on the audit resulting in this independent auditor report is Paul Williams, signed PricewaterhouseCoopers, Chartered Accountant, Kingston, Jamaica, the 12th of May, 2025. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul Williams. That was quite extensive, a letter, and I hope the Accounting Association, or whatever they are, will make a little bit more progress next year than they have in the previous 4 years in getting the Companies Act amended. But with that, I will open up the floor for any questions and discussion on the Director's report, the annual report, Auditor's report, and the financial statements are now open. Do we have any questions from the floor? If you could say your name, please. Mr. Barr. Good morning, Mr. Barr. I think there's a microphone coming. It will help your...
Good morning, all. One simple question. From page 82, it mentions net loss for the year under the heading of retained earnings. That one took me for a loop. I can't quite figure how you get a net loss on retained earnings.
That's in the... Net loss on retained earnings?
Right near the
Yeah,
top of the
Damon, you want to... You want...
page 82.
All right. Good morning, everyone. What you're looking at on page 82 is a statement of changes in equity for the parent company alone, right? The parent company is more of a head office operation. It doesn't earn revenues or anything. It just hires staff, right? All the revenues are earned by subsidiaries And if you look at the consolidated statement of changes in equity, that's on page 78, you'll see the profit for the year of $2.7 billion, which is the group on a whole.
Saw that figure. So the parent company is like just a holding company for
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
with
Right, right.
expenses.
And then that figure now, what, is a joint figure from all the I
No,
think they interpret that.
Yeah, so the parent company has costs, but the parent company owns businesses. The businesses have cash flow and profits, etc. And from time to time, depending upon what we're doing, the expenses are in the parent company.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Scott. That's it.
Any other questions from the floor? Yes?
Oh, thanks. Nicola Borley. This might be easier. Thank you. Looking at the questions from the last AGM, you mentioned, or there was a answer to a question that approximately 40% of the business is generated in Jamaica. With all the changes that have occurred over the past year, is this still the same or not?
It's a very good question. I would think we're closer to 50% outside. I mean, no, sorry, that's the wrong way to look at it. I would say, it's probably less than 40% now, actually. Yeah. It's not something that we're measuring on a monthly basis, but we probably should have come with that.
With the acquisition of CPJ, you said it allowed you to enter the hotel and hospitality industry. How has that fared for Seprod as a group?
Yeah, it's a good question. The CPJ is a very strategic transaction for us, and so far it's been working out very well for us, and it's on track.
If I may, or someone else? Note 7, page 112. Well, first of all, I must say, this time I don't see many graphs and projections and numbers. So overall, things may be a little more tame than in previous years. But I would like to note that auditors' costs went down with all of these changes. My goodness, that's an achievement. How did you do that? Auditors, close your ears, please.
Maybe a bill was delayed and things. I don't know how that happened, but it's a good observation.
Let me see. On a smaller note, however, donations went up by 70%. Same note 7, page 112. Is it that you're a little more giving than before?
No, I think the foundation runs based on projects, and when projects are being implemented, they obviously require more funds. It really depends on what's happening in a given year.
Oh, because I was thinking maybe you had taken on more projects and we'd see this as an ongoing basis. Or not?
I don't know if we're taking on more projects. The foundation has been going, I guess, for maybe 10 years or so. It has momentum. It's doing a lot of good work. I think $42 million is on.
Drop in the bucket.
Well, I'm not going to say it's a drop in the bucket. We have to work hard to produce it. But I think the foundation does great work, and we're going to continue to support it.
Well, I commend you. A question or an observation. In your unaudited 3 months submitted to the stock exchange, if I have my notations correct, your receivables for the 3 months is almost the same as at the end of your financial year December 31st. Is there any view to bringing that down?
Well, we're a distribution company that has so we sell, and then we collect. Our receivables are pretty much going to be the same level if our sales level are the same. Now, they could get bigger if we're not collecting money and we had a problem. That would be an issue. If we continued to sell to customers who didn't pay, then they would get bigger. That's not our practice, nor something that we anticipate that we're going to do in the future, unless, of course, we're supporting a customer strategically and we want to develop and help them or whatever. But our business is pretty predictable and stable, and as such, our receivables remain at a constant basis. I mean, they may grow as the business grows. That we would expect them to grow as the business grows. The focus is how much of our receivables is over 60 days. Has that grown? That's what's the non-current, and that's what it's focused on.
Okay, I'll have to look that up, or you can let me know.
Well, it's
Thank you.
yeah.
Instead of, it looks tame to you this year, but I just think that companies, like any organization, go through phases. I think we've been doing very aggressive on acquisitions. I mean, our strategy has remained consistent. I mean, it's a very boring, so the same strategy for the last 8 to 10 years, right? We're in a stage now where we need to make the acquisitions be integrated and extract the synergies. So, I mean, it's not boring. It's a lot of hard work going on behind the scenes. So, I mean, but it's remained consistent as what we've been committing to our shareholders in the last few years.
Good morning, Chairman.
Good morning.
How do you see the operating environment for the remainder of the year, and what does that mean for Seprod?
It's a very good question.
A good point, actually.
So, there's Jamaica, and then there's outside of Jamaica. Outside of Jamaica, with regard to tariffs, etc., that is obviously a continued work in progress, because as things are developed and change, things change. Richard and his team have been working on, pricing, etc., with our customers, and it's challenging when a duty is put on a product, and then you have to rework where in the value chain that 10% is going to land. That leads to a lot of conversations, and not necessarily positive conversations, so they're longer conversations. But we're not in the business for the next quarter. We're in the business of building our exports over the next sort of 20 years. So any investment that we've made in terms of pricing, etc., is for the long haul. And we have to become more and more competitive and continue to focus on exports and grow volumes. Now, obviously, we have other markets where tariffs are not affecting us, like the Caribbean. So we have a distribution platform, and we intend on growing our business. A lot of our exports have been somewhat limited by the capacity constraints that we had in our juice plant, which is now relieved because we've finished the upgrade. So I expect us to see a little bit of an uptick between now and the end of the year in our export business, despite the tariffs and stuff. In Jamaica, I think the trade generally has seen a slight softening so far this year. We had a good July. July was positive. I'm hoping August, it continues into August, and then we hit the back to school, and I'm hoping that that's not too bad. But our business is we control certain elements of our business, and the economy in Jamaica has not always been super rosy. And I mean, really, we've had a tremendous amount of development and growth in this country in the last 5-6 years. Unemployment is at record lows. Interest rates were very low. But even as they stand now, being high, for the vast majority of my life, they were in high teens if you were borrowing. So they're still low relative to historic numbers. So it's not as if we're entering a period of time that the world has had a massive paradigm shift. We see softening and we see hardening of markets in our market all the time. And quite often it might have nothing to do with the economy. It can have something to do with something, well, it's the economy, but it can have, knock-on effects. Travel advisory, for example, creates a little bit of a dip, comes back. So from a Seprod perspective, we have to adapt to whatever environment we're facing. I mean, what we are very confident, we've invested very heavily in our factories. We're becoming more and more competitive. Our distribution is very effective, not just in Jamaica. We have a distribution platform across the entire CARICOM region, which is basically our domestic marketplace. So, if you think about that, that means what we produce in Jamaica, we can move duty-free to a shelf anywhere in the Caribbean. So, to the extent that Georgetown is more important than Spanish Town to us, I don't think we're there yet. I mean, as a company, but I think we're getting to a point where there are many Spanish towns or mini micro markets across the Caribbean that we're addressing. We're not just addressing the Jamaican domestic marketplace. So I think we have options. I think this year will be a good year for us. We're going to get a lot done. And but I cannot recollect any year that's not been challenging in some shape or form. I don't know if that answers. It was a bit of a waffling answer, but we've lost warehouses. We've had lots of different crises in the past. We have an election this year that can cause a bit of a disturbance, but at the end of the day, it's not the first election Seprod's been exposed to. There's lots and lots of these things all the time, and hopefully it won't be too much of a distraction. Yes, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I am Natasha, and I'd like to know why did you need more time to file the 2024 annual report?
Yes, where are you? I'm trying to find you.
I'm right here.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Hi.
Nice to see you.
I'm good.
Good. Yeah, it is, Paul can attest to this, and I can't speak for the accounting profession, but to all those people that are listening or are here, and their students, I think accounting is a good career. You should go into accounting. It's an excellent career. There needs to be more accountants in the world because there's a lot more work for them to do than there are accountants to fulfill what needs to be done. The complexity around transactions, particularly when you have done acquisitions, and it's not just in the year that you've done the acquisitions. Every year thereafter, you have to test the goodwill and the intangible assets, which requires a lot of resources. Jamaica and the Caribbean have faced a lot of migration of capacity, and there's a lot of capability that is Jamaican that is going to work every day in Toronto and in New York, and the migration of accountants from Jamaica has caused resources to be somewhat limited. At the same time, demands, whether it is reports, IFRS has become more complicated, testing, there's so many more things that need to be done to get the accounts done, but there are less resources to do it. Now, we are not a company that wants to roll over and be a victim and say, boy, blame it on the accountants. No, absolutely not. It's not the accountants' fault, it's our fault too. We have to invest in technology. We have to be able to make sure this does not happen. We do not want to be late with our reports. We do not. But I don't think you can disregard the challenge that exists when you have a company that operates in 10 different countries dealing with 10 different audit firms that then have to work together, and then you have other assessments, etc. on top of that. It's fairly complicated, and we hope to improve every single year and not have this going forward.
What are the biggest risks Seprod sees ahead, and how are they being mitigated?
What are the biggest risks?
Yes.
It's a very good question. I think we're in an environment where world trade is changing, rules of trade are changing. That can change input pricing, that can change flows of trade. We're in a hurricane belt. We can have a hurricane and the cows stop producing milk for months. We can have damage. We have a lot of property that can be damaged with rivers. The rivers can overflow and take away the pastures. We have a lot of risks. We operate in countries that don't necessarily have the best sort of infrastructure. So you can have a spark that turns into a fire, that turns into the loss of a warehouse. So we have a lot of risk that we face.
So how do you mitigate them?
Well, we get up every day and we worry about it, and we live with a lot of anxiety and stress.
Okay, enough stress. I want another question here. Okay. Always Seprod angling cybersecurity and data protection, especially with your expanded region present.
Yeah, well, that is a risk. That is a big risk. So we invest in technologies that we upgrade them, and as I've said, I think you asked this question before, but we're not going to give the details of our cybersecurity out on a public meeting.
Okay, why did net profit attribute to shareholders decline year over year, despite growth?
Yeah, I think that is a well, there's a lot of reasons why it declined. We could be here all day. Do you have any other further questions?
No, it's okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Can I, Mr. Rose?
Good morning, Sir Chairman, David was shareholder. Morning to the persons viewing online, Seprod management and board of directors. So 5 questions, 1 point of query. So the first question is with respect to St. Thomas Development Limited. That was recorded on the 2024 audited as a subsidiary initially, but now as a joint venture. So, is there an intent to develop a facility in the parish of St. Thomas in Jamaica? Will any potential development begin for this joint venture, and who's the other joint venture partner?
Well, the joint venture partner is Mawson, who's a shareholder of Seprod. Mawson has a history of developing buildings, 58 Halfway Tree, there's 400,000 square feet there. MGS, Michael Sobrati developed, I think we have 350,000 square feet of offices and development in Spanish Town. And we have other developments, Chalmers in off Lines Road. Has 2 BPO buildings. So we've developed over 1 million square feet in the last 5 years of brand new buildings, and they've been rented and tenanted, etc. So Mawson has an in-house level of expertise that's there permanently, and that's what they do. So we're looking forward to that. The project's headed by our director, Michael Sabati. He's working on that. It's a joint venture. The land is obviously the land around Belvedere in St. Thomas, and we hope to start the project by the end of the year.
Could I get some clarity in terms of what kind of project it's going to be? Is
It's
it
gonna
like
be-
a warehouse, or is it just?
Oh, no. It's like a little town. It's in the first instance 400 houses, and then there's a plaza, and it's
Somewhat like-
fairly extensive. But this time next year, I'm sure we'll have a model of it in the corner, and we'll show it to you.
I appreciate it. Second question, at the 2023 AGM, CEO Pandowi spoke to the $1 billion target for console revenue by 2026. For 2024, you're at 850 million, with half your results from CPJ. So is it that you expect going into the remainder of this financial year along the 26 to complete more inorganic, growth opportunities through acquisitions, or is it that you're looking to expand, growth through organic focus through the existing companies?
So we're building a platform. The platform is to lay products on top of. We pretty much have coverage across the whole of the Caribbean now. And so we're going to start to see growth in Ghana. We're hoping to add Suriname very soon. St. Lucia is going to start to grow. St. Vincent is growing. Barbados is growing. So I think we're going to see a lot of organic growth, but if the essence of the question is, are we going to hit $1 billion of revenue? I'm sure we are. It would depend on currency translations and how all that works. I can't predict what happens.
So it's not necessarily about you achieving the goal specifically for 2026, because once you're growing, and that's what's important. It was more so the direction forward, and I appreciate the context you gave in terms of the potential new opportunities, in Suriname. I know that Braden's would have opened new subsidiaries in Guyana recently, so I appreciate the context in terms of that angle.
Yeah, so we see, our pharmaceutical platform, we're adding relationships that are becoming regional. Our premium beverage business, a similar thing is happening. In terms of the food, what we call the HoReCa channel, which is the institutional food business, that wasn't a business that we were in it by virtue of producing product that other people sold into it. But we are now in a more comprehensive way in it through CPJ. So a lot of the relationships that we have at CPJ, we can leverage in the other markets as we build infrastructure. Now, for example, they sell a lot of chilled and frozen product. We are building our warehousing in Trinidad that by the end of the year, we'll have a brand new facility, which will have capacity for chilled and frozen. Right now, we don't have that capacity in Trinidad. So it's not going to be immediate. You have to build out the infrastructure. What we do have is we have good relationships on the vendor side that we can then leverage and send product, not just to Jamaica in the future, but to the other markets. And we'll have the infrastructure to facilitate that.
And I appreciate the response, Sir Chairman. Next query is, I recall about 2 or 3 years ago when you spoke about the truckers in Jamaica going to Florida for better income opportunities. So, how is Seprod and the related subsidiaries working to address the labor pool needs for the large distribution platform across the region? And, when do you guys expect to have a permanent general manager for CPJ St. Lucia?
Well, we do have a permanent CPJ St. Lucia manager.
Oh, I thought you said interim.
Oh, okay. Well,
no,
yeah,
wasn't Sir Conyers the interim general manager?
Gerard Conyers has been there. Yes.
He's a permanent one person now. I thought he was interim.
Well, he's permanently committed to the job in hand. He's not been permanently appointed legally to the position, but the outcome of the work that's done on a daily basis, I don't think would make much of a difference.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Right.
And with respect to the labor pool needs for across the region for Seprod and its subsidiaries, can you give some context on that in terms of having the people to address the different specialization and skills across the distribution and manufacturing portfolio across the region?
Yeah, that's incredibly difficult. You want to talk about that?
Couple of things. I mean, it's when you look at labor or you look at the need, you can look at it two approach. How can I use less people to do the same amount or more work? And I think when you look at a combination thing, what we're doing is trying to push for productivity. It's a big drive in the company, a big drive that's necessary in our country. And we're trying to use technology, as I said before, or you didn't hear, but we're trying to use technology that's superimposed on us to reduce all the skill. Let's take CPJ, for example. They're predominantly in Montego Bay. Containers have to leave Kingston, go to CPJ in Montego Bay, offload, and then a lot of their sales are back in this side of the region. That's a lot of movement using a lot of people. Imagine, as is the case now, they're going to offload in Kingston. The time you take and the resource you occupy moving back and forth can be released to be customer facing and generating value. So that's how we're looking at the business right across the place. How can we get rid of the non-value time and create those into customer facing time? And also can we use technology? So we're trying to, it makes no sense crying about the lack of people. You're going to have to reset to say, okay, this is what I have. How do I make that resource deliver what I need for the business and for shareholders?
No, I appreciate the response, Sir Pandoi, because a lot of persons didn't, appreciate the context of when things someone getting back to Kingston, massive headache and just a cost of valuable time. And I appreciate the context about layering on better processes and technology to just make the business more efficient. So,
right.
And can I just continue, you, Sir Chairman?
Yeah, how many questions do you have there, David?
Just another two.
Another two. Okay,
Yeah.
you can have two more. Because I'm aware there might be people online, so
Sure.
I don't want to...
Sure. So, you spoke about the new distribution facility in Trinidad a while ago. Can you give some context on the potential opportunities that exist, with improving the distribution capacity across the group? For example, in Trinidad, you have that new distribution warehouse. You mentioned the chill capacity. I know that Seprod has a new distribution campus here in Jamaica. So that's the first part of the query. And the second part is, in terms of improving manufacturing capacity in Jamaica. And would Seprod consider moving some of its production to Trinidad to benefit from cheaper energy costs?
Okay, well, let me just... There's quite a bit there in that question. So the first question is on distribution and infrastructure. We've built a distribution center in Kingston that's fantastic. I think you might have seen it, you might not have seen it. You certainly saw the pictures on the video.
Yes.
And it's brand new. It's got a lot of capacity, and we have that. We didn't have a distribution facility in Montego Bay at Seprod. We had a small one in a little industrial estate in Montego Bay. Now that we have CBJ, we have a large distribution facility there. But that's no use to anyone because it's used to CBJ clearly, but it's not from a perspective of improvement of distribution. It's already full, right? So as Richard is saying, what we have to do is to balance the distribution, right? Because you've got containers coming to Kingston, you have containers coming to Montego Bay. You have product that's being supplied to customers in Kingston. Before, it was coming to Kingston, being driven all the way to Montego Bay, then loaded back to come all the way back to Kingston. That is a logistical cost, and that we're working through and eliminating. So that's sort of Jamaica. In Trinidad, we have a brand new facility that we're replacing, I think, 7 warehouses with and moving them all into one central warehouse. In that facility, we will have capacity for frozen, chilled, commodities, and pretty much everything that we wanted to do with additional capacity. In Guyana, we're also building a brand new warehouse that will have capacity and great facilities, and it'll be very attractive to people to put their products in them because it's going to be at a very high standard. And all of these will be hopefully concluded and operational in the next 9 months. What does that mean? It means we're going to be able to have more capacity, do more business, but for our factories, The factories are about productivity. The factories are about really driving volumes through the lines and then being able to put them into the distribution center. So when you have an extra 5,000 pallet spaces and you've upgraded the juice business with capacity, you can do much longer runs. That reduces the unit cost of the product. That makes you more competitive. You can offer better export pricing and your volumes can go up. So when we have capacity in the pockets in Trinidad, Guyana, that allows us to not just stock in our Kingston warehouse, we can send stuff to Guyana, Trinidad, St. Vincent, St. Lucia at better prices, and we can take the product from the machine to the shelf in multiple countries, all through our own value chain, and deliver at a price, and we can sell more. Energy is not our biggest cost in our business. It's not the cost that would cause us to move our business. Fundamentally, we've invested very, very heavily in our factories in Jamaica. We are 100% committed to developing and improving the productivities of our factory in Jamaica. The whole concept of the distribution platform is to drive volumes through our existing factories and put them through across the region. The level of investment that goes into an institutional knowledge in people, of having a factory working like Caribbean Products that's been working for 60 years, has 400 people working there, they know how to work the machinery's there. It's just not something that can be just replicated. The scale that we're doing manufacturing today at cannot just be replicated and picked up and taken to Trinidad. It just can't. And we have no interest in doing that. Having said that, we're not blind to the benefits that exist in Trinidad for manufacturing. They have a great free zone legislation. They have great maritime logistics costs. They have lower energy costs. And there are certain businesses that we would, for example, expand in Trinidad. We have a business called Genetics, which is a plant in Trinidad, and we are committed to investing in that plant and expanding it. We do not have a plant like that in Jamaica. So we wouldn't start one in Jamaica, but we would expand that in Trinidad. And there may be other things that we may in the future invest in manufacturing in Trinidad. I'm not taking that off the table. But our existing business as it is right now, we wouldn't be ever picking up and moving to another country, Trinidad or anywhere else.
No, I appreciate yours.
I just want to support the chairman. So we talk about warehouses in countries, but we're creating actually distribution hubs. So for example, the factory in the warehouse in Trinidad is not for Trinidad alone. It becomes a special economic zone for the entire Eastern Caribbean. So we're creating special economic zones at different hub points because everything we do is based on our regional platform. So, I mean, don't think of, shareholders don't think of it as countries, but as zones. And that's what we're going to cover all the different areas.
Thanks for additional commentary, Sir Pandowi. And I appreciate the clarity in terms of just the nature and depth, of the greater Seprod business as it is right now, especially over the last 5 years of growth. And this final query, so we would have seen a recent increased interest in AS Bradden by, Seprod. So the first part of it is, what's the main benefit you expect from moving the shareholders from AS Bradden to the Seprod level? And the second part of the question is, what kind of synergies do you expect to achieve, in the current superstructure, among Seprod, AS Bradden, CPJ, just in this contiguous formation?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And it's a very material transaction for Seprod. So essentially, there are a number of important things there. The first thing is that I really think it's important that everyone is aligned in the management. The people that you're looking at here, whether it's myself, Richard, etc. We are working for Seprod. AS Bradden's is a subsidiary of Seprod. And therefore, to the extent that we own shares in AS Bradden's, aligning interests is getting our senior management and having them owning shares in Seprod so that our ownership is in the right pocket. That doesn't mean that we have a view that Seprod is better than AS Bridens on an individual basis. I mean, I will tell you that I looked at it many different ways and times, and at the end of the day, the fact that I was agnostic to what I got and how it was, and I would have been the biggest loser or gainer, you know, I was just agnostic to it at the end, and the reason is because I think it was done very fairly. The fact is that, one, we want everyone aligned. Two, AS Bridens is a big business, and we have a lot of, you know, we're very positive about the future prospects. So owning a bigger piece of it for the Seprod shareholders is good. We are not, as far as I'm concerned, as far as Mawson is concerned, Mawson has not really changed its effective ownership in AS Bridens. It's moved it from one pocket into the other pocket. So but getting the alignment was very important. The other issue is, as a subsidiary, and a very, very important subsidiary that is essentially the distribution platform outside of Jamaica, in which we are sending product to, there are things that we need to do in terms of pricing and different things to make sure that everything's fair, etc. Now, when you go from 50% to 80%, if AS Bridens needs $2 million or $5 million to pay a bill, and then they pay us back in 4 months or 5 months, it's a lot easier to do that when you feel it's pretty much the same. It's a little harder to do that when you're in 50.5% and there's a minority there, and then you have to, it's to make everything more seamless, because where we are right now, it's about driving synergies out of the business. Yes, we have the platform. We can drive volumes to our subsidiaries from our manufacturing. We get the margins right the way to the shelf, and that's fantastic. And we will see the benefit of that. But what we really want to be able to see the benefit on the cost side too. Do we need 10 accounting departments? Do we have different software systems? How do we integrate that? How do we get the synergies and the benefits of scale? And you know, now things are settling down. We have to look at how we get the benefits from scale. And that's not about people losing jobs. That's not about that. It's about investing in technology to drive productivity up, to create space for people to be able to focus on other things. As Richard said, we want to be more customer facing. The more resources that we can reallocate to being customer facing and giving the customers a good experience, the more volume we're going to get. The more volume we're going to get is the more factory output. The more factory output we're going to get is the more profits we're going to get. So that's what we need to focus on.
I appreciate the response. And, you know, this response back to you is, I realize, you know, the very important point they made about, you know, just reallocating resources and creating better optimization. Because I realized that, you know, after the AS Bride and CPJ transaction, you know, CPJ would have given advance to AS Bread, you know, which has its own US dollar issues and so on and so forth. So as you pointed out, really and truly, having the alignment is important in terms of everybody's interests, but also just the optimization, you know, across the group of businesses. So I appreciate it.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any questions online?
They're asking for an update on the listing of Bridens on the Trinidad Stock Exchange.
Thank you. Richard?
Okay, so the latest update on that, Chairman, is that last week we got the approval from the Trinidad and Tobago SEC, Stock Exchange Commission, for the listing. That was a significant hurdle to be crossed, so we have that approval now. The next meeting will be the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, which will be August 18th, I believe, to have a discussion for that listing. So we're confident that they are listed in very, very short order.
That satisfies Mr. Ferguson. Any other questions online? Okay, any further questions from the floor? You have a question? No? Okay. If there are no further questions from the floor, I move that the director's report, the auditor's report, and the audited accounts showing the position of the company's affairs as of December 31st, 2024, now before the meeting, be and are hereby approved and adopted. Can I have a second? Thank you. Second, David Rose. All in favor? Aye. Sorry? Any days? Oh, no no's. Sorry? I know. Election of directors. In accordance with Articles 89 and 91 of the Company's Articles of Association, the following directors are retiring from office and being eligible offer themselves for re-election. Mr. Christopher Gentles, Mr. Nicholas Jones, Patrick Scott, Mr. Mark Swamy, and Mr. Mark Hart. Will somebody move that the nominations be made en bloc? Sorry, sir? Anthony Brown, seconded. Mr. Rose? Okay. Thank you. Being that it's on block, can I have a motion for approval of them being reappointed? Mr. Rose, seconded, sir. Okay. And we have to do a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any noes? No noes? Okay, good. Declare that they're reappointed. Remuneration of the directors. I move that the amount shown in the accounts for the year ended 31st December 2024 for the directors' fees be and is hereby approved. Will somebody please second? Mr. Yes. And seconded by Mr. Rose. Can we have all in favor? Aye. Any noes? No? Good. Appointment and remuneration of the auditors. Pricewaterhouse have indicated their willingness to continue in office as auditors. I move that PricewaterhouseCoopers be reappointed auditors for the ensuing year. Can I have seconded? Mr. David Rose, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any noes? No? Okay. Dividend payment. The company made the following dividend payments for the year. A payment of 60.5 cents to shareholders on record as of April 17, 2024 was made on April 26, 2024. A payment of 60.5 cents to shareholders on record as of August 26, 2024 was made on September 6, 2024. And a payment of 60.5 cents to shareholders on record as of December 20th, 2024 was made on January 17, 2024. I move that the dividends paid on April 26, 2024, September 6, 2024, January 17, 2024 be and are hereby approved. Can someone second? So second. Okay, David Rose. Okay. All in favor? Aye. No noes? No? Good. Any other business? Is there any other business to be discussed appropriately at this annual general meeting? No? If not, I wish everyone a good day, and I'll bring the meeting to a close. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
At Seprod, greatness doesn't ask for attention. It earns trust, quietly, consistently. For over 85 years, we've been the quiet power behind the Caribbean's progress, building value, building lives. We feed nations with food crafted to the highest standards. We support wellness with products and partnerships that people rely on, and keep life moving, powered by one of the region's most advanced distribution networks. From factory floors to supermarket shelves, rural communities to hospital wards, hotel kitchens and family tables, we're there, quietly connecting what matters most. But Seprod is more than what we make. It's how we move. It's who we empower. A platform where people grow, where partnerships thrive, where progress feels personal, and excellence is expected. We are proudly Caribbean, rooted in community, driven by possibility. We define what good looks like, redefining our standards in every product, every delivery, every experience. And then we raise it again and again, because if it's Seprod, it must be good. At Seprod, greatness doesn't ask for attention. It earns trust, quietly, consistently. For over 85 years, we've been the quiet power behind the Caribbean's progress, building value, building lives. We feed nations with food crafted to the highest standards. We support wellness with products and partnerships that people rely on, and keep life moving, powered by one of the region's most advanced distribution networks. From factory floors to supermarket shelves, rural communities to hospital wards, hotel kitchens and family tables, we're there, quietly connecting what matters most. But Seprod is more than what we make. It's how we move. It's who we empower. A platform where people grow, where partnerships thrive, where progress feels personal, and excellence is expected. We are proudly Caribbean, rooted in community, driven by possibility. We define what good looks like, redefining our standards in every product, every delivery, every experience. And then we raise it again and again, because if it's Seprod, it must be good. At Seprod, greatness doesn't ask for attention. It earns trust, quietly, consistently. For over 85 years, we've been the quiet power behind the Caribbean's progress, building value, building lives. We feed nations with food crafted to the highest standards. We support wellness with products and partnerships that people rely on, and keep life moving, powered by one of the region's most advanced distribution networks. From factory floors to supermarket shelves, rural communities to hospital wards, hotel kitchens and family tables, we're there, quietly connecting what matters most. But Seprod is more than what we make. It's how we move. It's who we empower. A platform where people grow, where partnerships thrive, where progress feels personal, and excellence is expected. We are proudly Caribbean, rooted in community, driven by possibility. We define what good looks like, redefining our standards in every product, every delivery, every experience. And then we raise it again and again, because if it's Seprod, it must be good. At Seprod, greatness doesn't ask for attention. It earns trust, quietly, consistently. For over 85 years, we've been the quiet power behind the Caribbean's progress, building value, building lives. We feed nations with food crafted to the highest standards. We support wellness with products and partnerships that people rely on, and keep life moving, powered by one of the region's most advanced distribution networks. From factory floors to supermarket shelves, rural communities to hospital wards, hotel kitchens and family tables, we're there, quietly connecting what matters most. But Seprod is more than what we make. It's how we move. It's who we empower. A platform where people grow, where partnerships thrive, where progress feels personal, and excellence is expected. We are proudly Caribbean, rooted in community, driven by possibility. We define what good looks like, redefining our standards in every product, every delivery, every experience. And then we raise it again and again, because if it's Seprod, it must be good. At Seprod, greatness doesn't ask for attention.